Hi there, Mike from Shoe Science Albany in Silverdale. Last week you might have seen the idea we've had about these Tech Tuesday videos. This will be the first Tech Tuesday that we touch on some product. We're going to look at New Balance today and how their range architecture looks. Now, if you saw our Free Friday tip that Matt did last week, we talked about variability being a really important part in your running to reduce the risk of niggles and those niggles that can develop into running injuries. Now, New Balance as a brand have grown immensely in running in the last half a dozen years, and a lot of that has been based around the architecture of their range. So one of their key shoes these days, and one that we love here at Shoe Science, is the New Balance 1080. It's been fairly unchanged for a number of years now, and it really does underpin their longer, slower, easy-paced running range. It has great fresh foam cushioning under the foot. It has a nice adaptive upper, which is incredibly stretchy. So if your foot's swelling on those long runs, you're out there for more kilometres, you want something that's more forgiving and in essence going to give you a greater chance of comfort. Also under the foot, a little bit more flexibility in the forefoot. It's a shoe that has a nice transition forward, a little bit of a rocker, I suppose, you know, as a modern term that gets used a lot, but it is a little bit flexible. So we wouldn't put it traditionally in that rigid rocker range, I suppose. But basically a great shoe, like I said, for those longer, slower or easier paced runs. We have a new shoe in the New Balance range, which is great value at that $200 mark as well. It's called the New Balance Propel. Now this is their first full-length TPU plated shoe. So this has a fuel cell foam to it, which is a firmer, snappier, slightly more responsive ride. And with that plastic or TPU plate through there, it just increases the rigidity through the forefoot in particular. So on slightly faster runs where you want a little bit more zip from the shoe, this will give you a little bit more back in terms of not energy return per se, but more so that leverage through transition. So as you toe off, you feel like you're going that little bit quicker, which is, you know, it's a great feeling to have and a nice addition into the range when you liken it to other shoes that New Balance have. The third one I want to touch on today is a shoe that's been around a few years. It's had a few different sort of generational changes, and that's the Fuel Cell Rebel. Now this comes with a totally different midsole material. It's a lot more dynamic, a lot spongier, I suppose, to use terms out there. But in terms of what it will give you back, it won't have the rigidity of the Propel, but it's lighter. So for that runner who's really putting in a bit of an effort, a higher tempo run, it has a slightly lower offset. So in other words, your heel's a little bit lower to the ground, and that's going to engage the calf and Achilles a little bit more as well. So if you really wanted that fast event day shoe for some people, but lower mileage, high tempo and effort day shoe, the Fuel Cell Rebel is another great one in their range. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how speed is very important to everyone's, you know, weekly running regime, I suppose, and how, you know, most brands that we talk about these days will have these variabilities within their range to give you those options depending on the speeds and distances that you're doing. So look out this Friday for another Free Friday tip from Matt, and tune in next week for another Tech Tuesday from Shoe Science in Albany and Silverdale. Thanks very much.